Hello, everybody. This is Michael McPherson. I'm coming to you from my studio in my home, Studio 302 on Beacon Hill. Yeah, and today is February 7th, and this is my seventh post on Black History Month, U.S. American History. And, I'm using this book as my main source, 366 Days of American History. It's a book that is basically a calendar of Black history, U.S. American history, and on the back it says too much history for just 1 month. So today we're going to talk about John Mercer Langston. So real quick, I'm just going to tell you a few things about him. Then I'm going to read you a little bit about his early life because he's very interesting. So John Mercer Langston, you can see him behind me here. He was a U.S. congressman. He was in the 51st Congress. He was an educator and diplomat who became Virginia's first African-American congressperson. Born on December 14th, 1829 in Louisiana County, Virginia, he went to Oberlin College with a BA in 1849, achieved a BA in 1849 and a Master of Arts in 1852, admitted to the Ohio Bar in 1854, elected clerk of Brownham Township in 1855, reportedly becoming the first person of African descent to be elected to public office in the U.S., declined to accompany John Brown. You all know John Brown, Harper's Ferry. John Brown on his mission to Harper's Ferry in 1859, elected to the Oberlin, Ohio Board of Education, 1860 and 1865, recruiter of Negro soldiers during the Civil War, elected leader of the National Equal Rights League in 1864, a forerunner to the Niagara Movement, member of the Oberlin City Council, 1865 to 1867, recruited African-American soldiers for the 54th and the 55th Massachusetts and the 5th Ohio Regiments during the Civil War, Inspector General of the Freedmen's Bureau in 1868 to 1869, founder and organizer of Howard University's law school. This is a bad brother, right? Where he served as dean 1868 to 1875, vice president and acting president of Howard University 1873 to 1875, addressed the Colored National Labor Convention in Washington in 1869, council and member of the District of Columbia Board of Health, 1871 to 1877, member of the Finance Committee and Board of Trustees of Freedmen's Savings and Trust Company, 1872 to 1874, resident minister and consul general to Haiti, so he was a diplomat, and charge of the affairs in Santo Domingo, 1877 to 1885, president of Virginia Normal and Collegiate Institute in Petersburg, 1885 to 1887. I lived in Petersburg for a while when I was real young. Virginia 4th District Republican Congressman, 1890 to 1891, serving on the Education Committee. Died on November 15th, 1897 in Washington, D.C. Now I want to share with you a little more about him because he had an interesting life, as you could tell by what I just read you. And I'm just going to read you a little bit from a website, History, Art, and Archives. This is from the Black Americans in Congress, 1870 to present. And I'm not going to read you the whole thing because it's kind of long, but so one of the most prominent African Americans in the United States before and during the Civil War, John Mercer Langston, was as famous as his political nemesis, Frederick Douglass. One of the first African Americans to hold elective office in the United States, he became Brownham, Ohio Township Clerk in 1855. Langston topped off his long political career by becoming the first Black man to represent Virginia, U.S. House of Representatives. So John Mercer Langston was born, as I told you, in Louisa, Virginia on December 14th, 1829. His father, Ralph Quarles, was a plantation owner and had been a captain in the Revolutionary War. Langston's mother, Lucy, was a Native American Black woman who had been Ralph Quarles' slave. Quarles emancipated Lucy and her daughter, Maria, in 1806. Lucy Langston left Quarles shortly after she was freed and had 3 children outside of their relationship, William, Harriet, and Mary Langston. The couple later reunited though state law forbade them from marrying, and they had 3 more children: Gideon, Charles Henry, and John Mercer. When John Langston's parents died in 1834, his father's estate was divided among his 3 sons and held in trust. 4-year-old John Langston moved in with a family friend, William Gooch, and his family in Chillicothe, Ohio. When Langston was 10 years old, Gooch made plans to move to Missouri, then a slave state. Listen to this. This is so fascinating to me. John's half-brother, William, sued to relinquish Gooch's custody over his brother, fearing the move would jeopardize John's freedom and his substantial inheritance. The court prevented Gooch from taking the child to Missouri, and Langston became the ward of Richard Long, an abolitionist who had purchased William Gooch's Ohio farm. In 1840, John Langston's brother Gideon brought John to live with him in Cincinnati. One of the city's leading Black figures, Gideon ensured that his brother received a good education. In Cincinnati, John Langston heard some of the strongest anti-slavery rhetoric in the pre-Civil War North and experienced the violent race riots of 1841 and the restrictive Black laws imposed as a consequence. In 1843, William Langston took custody of John and returned him to Chillicothe. John's older brothers and their colleagues were among the first Black graduates of Oberlin College in Ohio. And that inspired him to attend their alma mater. Langston received, as I told you earlier, a BA in 1849 and an MA in theology in 1852. Langston wanted to become a lawyer. Listen to this. A profession only 3 Black men in the nation had officially achieved nationwide in the early 1850s. After 2 law schools denied him admission, he studied under local abolitionists in Elyria, Ohio. In September 1854, a committee on the district court confirmed his knowledge of law, deeming him, trips me out, deeming him nearer white than Black. They deemed him nearer white than Black. But hey, they admitted him to the Ohio bar. He commenced his practice in Brownhelm, Ohio. In 1854, he married Carolyn Wall, also a former student at Oberlin, who was active in the abolitionist movement and the Liberty Party. The couple raised 5 children: Arthur, Ralph, Chinke, Nettie, and Frank. Now, if you want to know more, you're going to have to go to that website and read more about him and, find out why he was some kind of nemesis to Frederick Douglass. Okay, before I wrap it up, let's just talk about what happened on February 7th in Black history, U.S. American history. So one big thing, and you can see it behind me, the first Negro History Week began coinciding with President Lincoln's birthday, which I believe is on the 12th. But Carter G. Wood, that was in 1926. That's when the first Negro History Week began, which is the forerunner of what we have today, which is Black History Month. And if you listen to my first post on February 1st, I talk about Carter G. Woodson, and he is considered the father of Black history. So in 1883, James Herbert U.B. Blake, ragtime and musical comedy composer, was born in Baltimore, Maryland. Some of you might have heard of U.B. Blake, died in 1983. Wow, he lived to be 100, or at least 99. 1914, Charles Kinsey Steele, civil rights leader of the 1956 Tallahassee boycott, was born in Gary, West Virginia. He died in 1980. 1923, Harvey Washington Banks, first African-American to earn a PhD in astronomy, was born in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And as I said, 1926, the first Negro History Week. So that's it for today. I hope you learned something. I'm curious, and you'll check out more U.S. history, Black history, and check out John Mercer Langston. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself. Power to the people, power to the peaceful. One more thing. February 7th is also Sandra Bland's birthday. Sandra Annette Bland was a 28-year-old African-American woman who was found hanging in a jail cell in Waller County, Texas on July 13, 2015, 3 days after being arrested during a traffic stop. Her death was ruled a suicide. It was followed by protests against her arrest, disputing the cause of death and alleging racial violence against her. Bland was pulled over for a traffic violation on July 10th by State Trooper Brian Acina. The exchange escalated, resulting in Bland's arrest and a charge of assaulting a police officer. The arrest was partially recorded by Acina's dash cam, a bystander's cell phone, and Bland's own cell phone. After authorities reviewed the dash cam footage, Acina was placed on administrative leave for failing to follow proper traffic stop procedures. So was he held accountable, or was the jail held accountable? And in many ways, no. In some ways, yes. So in December 2015, a grand jury declined to indict the county sheriff and jail staff for a felony relating to Bland's death. The following month, Acina was indicted for perjury for making false statements about the circumstances surrounding Bland's arrest, and he was subsequently fired by the Texas Department of Public Safety. In September 2016, Bland's mother settled a wrongful death suit against the county jail and police department for $1.9 million and some procedural changes. In June 2017, the perjury charge against Acina was dropped in return for his agreement to permanently end his law enforcement career. I read that from Bland's Wikipedia page. There's a lot more there, so if you want to learn more about Sandra Bland's death, you should read it on Wikipedia. And there's a lot of information about Sandra Bland out there. Sandra was a beautiful woman, and it's just such a shame, as it is with everyone who's been killed by police or died in police custody, nonviolent, good people. There should not, whatever color, but we know there's a disproportionate number of Black people, Indigenous people, brown people who are killed by police and or die in police custody in some way. This is also part of U.S. American history. So I just wanted to make sure that we remember Sandra Bland, say her name, a moment of silence.